Hi, do you want to know about what happens when a CFO doesn't work out and what it might look like to not have a great success with a fractional CFO? That's what I'm going to talk about in today's video. So stick around and find out what you can learn, what not to do when interacting and engaging with a fractional CFO. I am Natalie Cook with Finance Fight Club. I am so happy to have you here today. I'm going to do a few little mini case studies on what maybe it doesn't look like to have a great success with a fractional CFO. Some of our clients that we have not really been able to help, or maybe some leads that were just not the right fit. And hopefully at the end of this video, you will understand kind of what to look for when you know you are in the right place to get the right support from a fractional CFO. Before I jump in, I want to share a little bit about our margins and how CFO support has helped our clients. We recently reviewed all the margins for the clients that have been with us for 12 months. I really strongly believe that fractional CFO support is best when you can commit to at least 12 months, but 12 to 24 to 36 months of time is when we can really dive in, be those partners, and actually achieve results. Finance in general is a slower function of the business. Our results take a lot of time. It's a lot of little things happening each month. And then those combined is when you start to see results. So I wanted to share today because it's so exciting to see, but I'm going to look at my little other screen real quick. We have seen 464% increase in annual revenue from our clients that have stuck with us for 12 months or longer. We have seen a 320% increase in net income. You can call that EBIT, EBITDA in that frame, if you will. We didn't distinguish between that in our clients. So just think of it as profit increase, 320%. That's incredible. Think about all the more money that you could have in your pocket if you increased it even by 20% of that. And then for our efficiency, this is how I measure our efficiency. So when I think of fractional CFO, a really good CFO, when I'm investigating, okay, what works and what doesn't work, they should be looking and making sure all the expenses in your business are driving revenue. If they are not driving revenue, they should be cut or changed. And I'm not saying you get rid of your ops team. That's not what I'm saying. Everything should be either increasing the ability to drive revenue. And there's other videos on it. I don't want to spend too much time on it. But my metric for success when I'm trying to think, how do we capture all these businesses that are doing very different things, is what's the change in expenses as a percent of revenue? Those should come down along with revenue going up. So for that, we've seen 146% decrease in expenses as a percent of revenue, which means that we have made businesses 146% more efficient at spending their own money, which has increased their profits and increased their revenue. So that's huge and exciting, but I want to talk about, where does CFO just not work? What happens? So the first kind of case study that I have in mind is one client that I individually worked with for over a year. And after the end of the year, she loved our service. She loved the support she was getting. And what I realized was she loved having someone to talk to about her big decisions. But where I think we weren't able to build the efficiency that I would like to see in these metrics, she took a really long time to make decisions. So there were two examples of that, two hiring decisions where I said, hey, this person I think needs to get off of your team. It's costing you money. And lo and behold, a few months after that, we had that conversation multiple times. And again, it's her decision. There were lots of reasons. I understand it's very, very, very hard to let a person go or change their role. And I wasn't saying it in a harsh way. It wasn't like, hey, you have to fire this person or you're going to lose your business. It was, hey, we need to have some redundancy because I can see the writing on the wall that the things that you're having this person do aren't working. And lo and behold, a few months down the road, a bunch of invoices got messed up. They were missed. Revenue was actually missing from the business. And it was because that person had a health issue that they weren't dealing with. They weren't trained, and there was no redundancy on the team to check it. So I would not say that business owner wasn't thinking thoughtfully or wasn't doing anything. I would say, hey, the CFO is there to provide guidance and advice and illuminate things that are going to come up in risk. And you, the business owner, are responsible for making those decisions. However, if you have a CFO and you are consistently saying, hey, I'm just going to ignore your advice, don't hire a CFO. that happened twice in this one company, where one was, hey, I don't know what to pay this person. It was actually a pretty simple dollar amount. We had multiple conversations on what to pay the person, probably costing the business owner the same amount as if they just paid the higher rate. There was a discrepancy between, I want to have a lot of different conversations. I want someone to be able to be with me to have those conversations, which is a great feature of a fractional CFO. If you're not really willing to look at the insights or go deeper or really look at those metrics, I don't feel like, even though that client loved the work that we did, was a success in my mind. I felt like there needed to be a connection between the work and the analytics and the money, because we really functioned as a business coach versus a fractional CFO. And that was a little bit of, I was toying with a different scope, and a little bit of that business owner really quite understanding. And so I would say that's where I would not recommend a fractional CFO. If you want someone to hold your hand through every decision and talk about it over and over again, that is a great person to have. A business coach is the perfect person to have to get that feature. If you want someone to provide insights into what you can do to get more profit and expenses and more money in your pocket, that is where a fractional CFO is going to be the most helpful. Story number 2. This is really a general mini case study on prospects that have come to us and said, hey, I want a fractional CFO. How do I know if I'm ready? And I will tell you, at least 4 times in the last 12 months, I've had kind of similar conversations. And I think it's worth noting, and I'm lumping them all together into one because they're almost identical. They don't have a clear goal. So I actually don't like taking on clients that don't know what they want. We have in the past, and it doesn't work well. Usually we cancel in 6 months because they think it's something, they haven't expressed their goal, or their goal shifts. But for these prospects that I'm thinking of, I really ask, what do you want in the next 12 to 18 months? What do you want in the next 3 to 5 years? And if they're like, I'm not sure, they're not ready for a fractional CFO, because we need goals in order to be able to track KPIs, to reach those goals, to be able to tell you how to spend your money. It's a very different strategy to say, hey, I'm an owner and I want to make the most money for myself, versus this is an investor-backed company and we're trying to make the most shareholder value, or we're trying to get to a sale. Those are all incredibly different financial strategies. And a fractional CFO who is worth their salt is not going to take on a client who doesn't have a clear goal, because they will be floundering and will not know. I can provide nice, pretty reports all day long. That's not fractional CFO work. That's reporting. You can do that with AI now. It may or may not be correct, but you can have some beautiful reports that give you some insights. Actually, QuickBooks, their new AI function, if you're in QuickBooks, you can get pretty good insights. I would just stick with that. I would not hire a fractional CFO. Fractional CFOs are forward thinking, looking at the future, thinking consistently, what are the goals of the business? What are the KPIs that we need to meet? What's that big goal? What do the shareholders want? What do the investors want? What does the team want? And then constantly changing the structure and looking for those opportunities to kind of push the business in that direction from a finance lens. So that's number 2. Number 3, I would say, in my experience, sometimes I can't weed this out when I'm starting an engagement with a client, but a client that can't get out of their own way. So we've taken their business, we've looked at the insights, and we've said, hey, we need labor to be this % of revenue, or you're not going to make it. And the client that doesn't quite understand that, doesn't really want to follow through with that, is kind of maybe happy with the service, but again, isn't willing to make the hard choices, isn't willing to look at the data, and sometimes that is, they're just not in a state of mind to kind of look at the data. Those are, I would say, sometimes we can help and sometimes we can't. That's a 50-50 if the fractional CFO is right. I would say if they're getting ready to sell, we still can support some degree, but it's not going to be as effective. We're not going to see the same results. If you really, really want the results that a team like ours can provide, it is really investing in our service and believing that the work that we're doing is aligned to your goals and consistently working towards that. It's not to say you have to take every piece of advice, because honestly, we're not dictating what you should do. We're outlining the information and giving you options of what you could do. You as a business owner still know what is best for your business, and sometimes you know way more than what we can provide, but we are here to clarify data. So if you're not willing to really look at the data or make the hard decisions or implement the changes, fractional CFO is probably not a great fit for you. Lastly, I think one failure of mine in a particular client that I had a while ago was not really clarifying my role in that, and then not clarifying what I needed from the CEO. And now we've done a much better job when we take on a client of making sure they're aware. But in this particular instance that I'm thinking of, and I'm trying to be as anonymous as possible without giving details, but also giving some insight, that CEO they wanted to offload all of the work of a CFO onto our team and say, you guys are responsible for all the numbers and I'm not going to even look at them. And it really just ended in a, hey, we're just not the right fit. You didn't know really what a CFO was going to do, but you also you kind of wanted to stick your head in the sand when it came to everything. And it really is a partnership. We work with the owners. We need you to really understand your business. We need you to really understand your numbers. And as soon as a CEO or the exec team takes a step back and is like, I'm not really going to look at this, I trust that you've got it, it's going to end in disaster and we're not able to get it. We need a whole team invested. We need everybody kind of looking at the numbers. The teams that work well, those CEOs are like, yeah, I understand the numbers, but I know that you are also taking a bunch of stuff off of my plate. That's when it works so well. So that's what I've got today. Thank you for being here. If you want to learn more about our team, please click the link below and check out our website. Connect with me directly if you are interested in CFO services. Thank you and have a great day.